Good evening and welcome to the Bhoycie Bus. No, do not adjust your calendars. Do not adjust your computer screens, television sets, mobile phones. This is not the Sunday Blether. This is the Tuesday Ticket. And of course, why would I not be? I'm always joined by my blethering buddy, Phil McGinley. How you doing? The Riddler.
I'm absolutely great, mate. Glad to be on. A fresh change of scene on a Tuesday night. You're glad to be here, man, as always.
And of course, Regan. Regan is one of my bestest buddies on the Bhoycie Bus. He likes to throw a few fists at me every now and again. How you doing, Regan?
Hi, David. I'm glad to be back on. It's been a while, but I'm glad to be back on. In Celtic, I've managed to collect 2 trophies in that time, David. So I'm very, very happy. Aye, it's good to be on.
And we've got a new member on the bus tonight. I don't know. I couldn't quite catch your name. Who's it? You? What was your name again? Oh, it's Bhoycie.
Bhoycie. Fuck knows who I am anymore.
What is going on? He's back on screen. We have an exclusive on the Tuesday Ticket.
Your new Tuesday Ticket show, mate. I thought I would hijack it, mate, with the whatever the fuck this is in my head now.
I'm a trendsetter. What can I say?
Aye, mate. It's just so I could fit in. You wouldn't invite me on any shows, just shave my head so I could get on it, mate. But no, after what was I'll give you described as torture in Turkey. I finally let it grow back in enough. I know folk will be going, is that it grown in? Trust me, it's better than it was. It was like fucking rump to the wood and red and looking right sore. So, we've got there. I thought it was distracting for the football, all that carry on. I probably could have done it last week. So I thought, what's the point when we can just wait till the end of the season and then it'll be fine. We don't want to distract the football because it was the most important week or so in Celtic season we've just sort of witnessed. So you want to keep the focus on that, and then obviously if anyone wants to have some fun tonight, that's absolutely fine.
Absolutely. I must say, I loved the phone call. When you phoned me, I was driving back and I picked up a Chinese. Phil, I picked up a Chinese that night and I got a wee exclusive from Bhoycie. He was like, don't show anybody. I was like, I texted back saying, how was it? And
hairdresser confidentiality, mate.
That's it. You kept so on, and of course I didn't tell anybody. Kept that to myself until right now. But you decided to phone me because you couldn't describe any better how the experience of torture that you went through that day, which I was sitting howling away. I was having to mute myself because I didn't want to come across that I was laughing at you. But it was one of the funniest stories you've ever told me. But it was brilliant.
It wasn't funny at the time. I was actually cutting about with a wee goonie on, looking like the wee bird for fucking Stranger Things. That's what I felt like.
Right. Anyway, let's get. It's the new look Tuesday Ticket. If you haven't realised yet, so we've not been on the Sunday Blether for nearly a month. Phil was saying because Connor Carr, he's been doing a brilliant job with his carpooling or whatever he calls it. Car crash is what he was calling it, and he was on the show a couple of weeks ago. He's going to be taking the keys, I think, for the Sunday Blether. So make sure you keep an eye out for Connor's Sunday Blether and his new crew. This is the Tuesday Ticket. This is going to be the show where we're looking at all the news, the gossip, all the transfers. It's silly season, Phil. So we're going to spend our Tuesday nights looking at some of the top stories that's been coming out of Celtic Park over the week or over the weekend. But before we do that, we've got some housekeeping to do. So give us a like, give us a share, slag the lack of hair.
You had to think about that
I was dreading that bit.
Become a Bhoycie Bus member. You can do that with a small cost of $1.99. All the content is absolutely free. There's no extra content. It's just your way of helping supporting the podcast, keeping the wheels turning, keeping the bus on the road. Floating all the shampoo.
We start a GoFundMe page just for dreadlocks.
So just squeeze hard enough, it'll grow quicker. So I've been told. Of course, piesports.com.
We're still talking about hair.
We don't plug that. We don't plug them anymore. Those guys.
What were those blue pills again? They were brilliant, man.
Piesports.com. Get on there, 12.5% off your tasty treats at the checkout with Bus 1888. I think that's all the good stuff out the way. So let's get talking let's get talking about the gossip now. Of course, hot off the press, wasn't only just maybe an hour ago. Celtic Instagram and Twitter and whatever else, they posted up this, and of course that is them letting us know that as of tomorrow they will be dropping the new Celtic home kit. Now we're all going to pretend that we haven't seen the leaked pictures and we don't know what it possibly look like, but thanks Celtic for putting that out tonight. What's your thoughts? Let's just go straight into it, Phil. What's your thoughts on the new home kit? And now I know last season's one was a bit of a Marmite kit. Could this be another one? What's your thoughts on it? I like it. I quite like it.
Yeah, I think it looked fine in the leaked images initially. The first one, it didn't look particularly good at the angle it was at. It was a bit crumpled up, hanging up somewhere. Whatever that picture was taken, I don't know. But then there was other ones doing the rounds, with a head-on view of it, and it looked all right. And then, there's been a few leaked images from the website, like official promo shots, so like Kyogo in it and stuff. So I think it looks absolutely fine. So this season's one, I'm all for doing stuff that are a bit out there, but I prefer it on like away kits, because that's what away kits are for, to do something a bit out of the ordinary. But with the home kits, they're very formulaic. There's only so much you can do with the hoops, and I know a lot of people can lose their minds over broken hoops and stuff like that. I think it looks absolutely fine. This season's one was maybe a bit too out there. It was a bit too niche as well with the reference they went for, where it was meant to be the stained glass window that used to be above the door at Celtic Park. But again, it's one of them, if you know, but you right away you go, oh, that's really smart. But most people looked at it, and I think Williams called it, it was like a lizard skin or something like that. That's what it looked like. I think he was quite reptilian, was what he said. And I think he was quite accurate with that one. So yeah, this season's one, even though now we've won a double in it, so it could be remembered for that at least. But overall, I'm quite happy to see the back of this, the home kit. In fact, the best kit that we released this season is the black away kit, as this is the best one that we've done this year. But yeah, that home kit for the past season, it wasn't hard to beat. The new one said looks okay to me, and Celtic will be officially releasing it tomorrow, or at least putting the promo pictures out there. When it'll be on sale, we'll find out.
I'd said in the group chat, Regan, that the two wee bits that they put down at the edges of each side of the strip. I wonder how many of the Adidas kits in the Premier League and all the other will have the same. And I didn't actually realise until a client came in this morning wearing the new Scotland top that they have the same bit. So it's obviously, I kind of was half joking about that, but it's looking like that's probably going to be a main feature in the Adidas kits this year. I don't want to talk too much on the kits because there's way more interesting things to talk about, but I just thought that was it literally came out just before I came onto the computer tonight, so I thought, right, we'll get that. It's the latest news out of Celtic Park. I thought we'd get out of the way, but I like it, Regan. I like it.
I think what Phil was saying there, I think that the strip from last season, and now that we're calling it, I don't think that was the nicest kit, but I think that this one's, I think that is an upgrade on last year.
I wonder, and you might know better than me, Bhoycie, but this one is, I wonder if they saw a massive drop in the sales. I know everyone still goes out and they set up, I'm going to buy it, but I just wonder if they've went, let's try to go back to a wee bit more what people are used to, because if there's been such a marmite in the kits, people might have took a stand and went, nah, I'm not buying that one. They'll bring out another 4 this season. I'll pick one of those ones instead. And they've maybe went, just for revenue, it's a business making thing as well, football. And I just wonder if they've went, we saw a drop off in sales there. Let's just try and get it back to more what people are used to and what they like. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, because it is more what we're used to as Celtic fans, I think.
They're going to flip between the two, though, aren't they? They're going to try and do the odd one that's more creative. I don't think it would have affected sales much. If anything, I think they probably did all right. Was it not reported this year we were in the top 20 selling jerseys in Europe? Sure it was.
That says more about us as Celtic fans supporting our club more than taste of
maybe that than the shop. But I think if they do a concept one, they're not going to do a concept or a creative one like they did this year. I doubt they would do it 2 seasons in a row, go then again, all that jazz. I'm not surprised they went back to basics either, to be perfectly honest with you. Albeit, I'm all for the wee bit of difference sometimes. I think the biggest problem with kits, and me and the judge spoke about this before, is the biggest problem with kits is they don't get the notoriety with not being there for longer than a season. They need to have the 2 seasons. See, when they've got the reason the retro kits have had such an upsurge in sales over the last 4 or 5 years is really because the longevity of wearing them creates more of an iconic status on those kits. Some of the Umbro ones that get this unbelievable sort of loving, realistically, I think would get panned if they came out this year.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, in this modern era, and I think they get more of a loving because they've got more memories attached to them. And I think now when you're jumping year on year, the thing like the kit that I liked it last season's or this season's it's just finished. I like that kit, but I thought it was different. I thought it was bold. And I thought it was memorable, if anything else. And I think if we had 2 years out of that, that's the equivalent of one that you would see now, like 20 years on. Do you know what I mean? Getting bought on DHgate amongst there's plenty of other fake sale websites available.
But like you say, like when they were out longer, then there was more opportunities for memories to be made in them. You could always think of like that strip. Well, that's when that happened. And I think, like you said, this strip it's going to be a memorable because one, it'll stand out like a sore thumb compared to more of our traditional kits. But in like 10 years' time, or even not even longer, somebody could say that's the kit that Adam Edis scored the winner in the Scottish Cup final. Remember that season? You know, just right away people will recognise it because it does stand out. But that's enough talking about kits. Let's start talking about the more juicy stuff, the stuff that I love talking about. Silly season is silly season. It is mental. We can be linked with anybody or anyone, and I love the debate around players, even the ones that are so unrealistic or they're maybe just minuscule, like just a name's mentioned. I love talking about them because it just brings up conversation, especially when there's not much else to talk about. And Bhoycie, you were on with my jet setting father on the TNF, and you were discussing the goalkeeper situation, and you went into quite length into the discussion about Fraser Foster. I want to talk about who you briefly touched on, but I think you both admitted you didn't know too much about him, and that is Casteels at Wolfsburg. And of course, if anybody wants to know what Casteels looks like, here he is here in the green Belgian kit. Big, massive goalkeeper. Now, who is Casteels? Well, he's 31 years old. He's played 283 matches throughout the course of his career in the Bundesliga. Of those, he has won 102 so far. He has competed 238 matches with his current squad, which is obviously just now left with a total of 283 matches. I think it's pronounced Cohen Casteels. He presently has played the 18th most clear matches in the Bundesliga. He capped 8 times by his country. Anderlecht are also interested in trying to bring him back, which is he did play there in the past, but they suffered a bit of a blow there because they were defeated by Club Brugge at the weekend, which pretty much ended their hopes of getting into the Champions League. So I think that's maybe, that's them maybe out of the running there. He has won the German Super Cup in 15-16 with Wolfsburg. He's a Belgian champion with Genk, and he also won the Belgian Cup with Genk as well earlier in his career. Phil, I'm sure you've seen that man pop up plenty of times on your all-new team.
I knew you were going to make a reference to that. Yes, I am. Yes.
So you'll be well aware of who he is. What was your thought? What's your thoughts when Celtic were being linked with Casteels? Because personally, I'll admit I don't watch the Bundesliga, but he is a name that's popped up. He is like he was in the Belgian team for the Euros that they got third place in, I believe. I like Wolfsburg as a team. Just with the Volkswagen reference, I've always kind of had a little wee eye on them. But I can't say
and they were green as well,
and they were green as well. It's a big, massive deal. But Casteels,
you've always kept an eye on Wolfsburg.
I've always had a wee thing about Volkswagens, and because that's where Volkswagen's factory is, the Wolfsburg Stadium.
So you keep an eye on their scores. Is that where you first check on teletext? You just into the Bundesliga.
Straight away, I'm right onto Wolfsburg.
I was going to say, where did they finish in the league, David?
Near the bottom. Anyway, throw me under the bus there. I say I keep an eye on them. I always had a little I like that top. I like the Volkswagen. That's about as much as Manchester gets. But quickly, Fuck you, Bhoycie, right? Back to the conversation.
I know, mate. I
Yes,
told you, I'm
Steels.
fucking. It's the 15, mate. I just think I'm hard as fuck now. That's the problem.
Okay, let's get this guy in. I want the real Bhoycie. I want that real Bhoycie back. Where's
I
that
used to be
fun-loving
sound,
blonde
mate.
went?
I know. Since I shaved, mate, I just started barting lollipop, man, guide dogs, anything that works now, mate. I've got a shaved head now. I'm crazy.
Yeah, fuck you, man. Right, so Casteels. Bill.
Yep.
What's your thoughts when were you excited at the thought of a 31-year-old monster that's been playing in the German league for quite some time, Belgian international? Does that interest you in the slightest?
It does very much, not even in the slightest. Not necessarily him, but a keeper of that profile is exactly what we should be looking for. It shouldn't be a project player. Should be anything like that. Should be a guy who has played in a top division for a top team, and he's also got caps for a top international side as well. He's at a good age for a goalkeeper, 31, because keepers do tend to play longer. So yeah, a keeper of his ilk is exactly the type we should be looking for. Now, whether he ends up being the one, who knows? Because again, we are very much in the market for a goalkeeper. The scouts and agents know this. Celtic are very public in their search for it because our number one keeper, Joe Hart, a very public figure as well in the world of football, has obviously retired. So our name could also be getting used as well by agents and clubs and whatnot to get players moved. But we will be linked with a lot of different keepers, I think. But a keeper of his profile and ilk is exactly what I would hope Celtic will bring in ultimately at the end of it. And it's not some random punt on somebody from, say, Asia or Africa or something for like less than £1 million. That I'd rather somebody who's been there at a top level, because going into this new Champions League format as well, God, we're going to have a hell of a good last line of defence. So Casteels, he does have a lot of the characteristics you're looking for. So yeah, that is exactly the type of keeper that I am looking for us to sign.
Regan, I know you keep an eye on the other Bhoycie Bus shows as much as I keep an eye on Wolfsburg's games, but you might have known that Bhoycie was talking. Bhoycie was talking about whether it's important to get another goalkeeper in like Joe Hart, where he was in his career. I think Casteels kind of fits that role, that he's had massive experience in a top league, bags and bag experience. He's just been picked again for the Belgian national team. He might even be their number one because I don't recognise the other. Courtois still injured, I believe, so I don't know if he got called up. So he might be looking at being the number one goalkeeper for this tournament. Does he fit that profile? Oh, well, thank you very much. That's amazing, John. Thank you for the donation. He kind of fits that mould of the experienced goalkeeper that's maybe looking to come to a club to win trophies and to play in the Champions League, which he's not had much experience in over the last few seasons.
I think he does. I think he does because I think as well, like you guys were saying there about Joe Hart, I think as well as Joe Hart being a very good player, I think what he brings off the park as well is very important. And the fact that this player's played in the Bundesliga, which is a very good league, and he's got experience of playing for his national squad as well. I think now that'll stand us in good stead because we will want somebody with a presence. I suppose the only negative we get in a kind of foreign unknown goalkeeper, because as Barkas could come in with a great reputation, playing in the Champions League for AK Athens, playing for his national team. But everybody was talking about him. He had a great game against Bayern, I remember, in Germany. So I just hope it's not another Barkas, but I trust Brendan Rodgers with who he wants to bring in. But I suppose the other argument that you would have is that Brendan Rodgers is not the best manager of picking a number one because he picked Doris de Vries, and he didn't work out too well for Celtic in 2016. So I think it'll be interesting, but I think it could be somebody closer to home. Somebody that Brendan knows. I don't think Brendan will want to take too much of a risk. Not that I'm saying that this person's a risk, but I'm saying that I think Brendan will want to speak to people he knows and possibly err on that because I don't see us because I don't want us to get in that stage where we bring in the number one goalkeeper and he's not any good, and then we've still got Scott Bain there, because Scott Bain's clearly not at the level. So we need to get this one spot on.
I understand the nervousness around of a foreign goalkeeper playing in a foreign league because of the Barkas debacle that we had, that Regan has, Bhoycie. I just can't put Casteels and Barkas in the same bracket. The Barkas' reputation, as far as I was aware that we had as fans, was just they had a good game against us that one time, playing in the Greek league, which you can argue is maybe more on par with Scottish league than certainly the Bundesliga is. A guy with so much as experience as Casteels has, this guy that's won championships with Genk. He's won cups in a very difficult German league. He's a free agent. I would take the risk. I don't know why. The risk on Casteels more than I'd say somebody that Brendan maybe knows, because when Regan mentions the goalkeepers that maybe Brendan knows close to home, all I think about is Danny Ward. And if you're going to give me Danny Ward or Casteels, I know who I'm picking every day of the week, because that Danny Ward just gives me the absolute fear. You went into a lot of depth of why you would, in your decision making when it came to Fraser Foster, on the limited information that I've given you, maybe that you know about Casteels and maybe what you've read online so far with the links, applying those rules that you gave for the Fraser Foster argument, what's your stance on the potential of signing Casteels?
It's difficult, because it's one of those ones when you look at it, you go the profile of the keeper, which was the sort of point I was trying to make the other night when it was coming to Foster. I said, I think a lot of the reason people get put off him is because he's had the spells before, but really you should just be looking at, where his situation is at, what his pedigree is, fitness, etc., desire to come, all that sort of stuff, and first and foremost, ability. And I think if you could just, sort of make that the main sort of aims, and affordability, of course, as well. Mm-hmm. But I look at Barkas joining it, and I think, if we're all honest, and the bus was around at that time when Barkas signed, I think Phil's answer that he gave on the Belgian keeper probably not be that far away what he gave or would have gave if this was Barkas around now. Fits the profile, international goalkeeper, won trophies in a competitive league, equatable to the Scottish League, if not better. I think it's really hard without seeing them. And then, see, when you see a goal, you're only going to see the good bits or these really bad bits, right? The decision-making on a goalkeeper, I think, is fundamentally someone needs to be scouted for a serious, considerable period of time. Start picking up on their traits, good and bad. Not their major blunders. All goalkeepers have them. Not the odd worldy save, the consistency of key saves. And then would it be coming for a corner, which I think has maybe not been Joe Hart's biggest strength, how confident he's in the box. You can only get that from minutes and minutes and minutes and hours and hours and hours of footage and spending that time to watch it. Profile-wise, in terms of the international scene, if he potentially, if Courtois doesn't get fit and he's playing as Belgium's number one at the Euros, I think that would take him to a place where we probably would struggle to get him ready to be even, I think, playing on par. He doesn't need to have an excellent Euros. You're Belgium number one.
If he plays terrible, then we don't want him. If he plays well, then we can't afford him.
Yes. Yeah, that's so true. And you've got to look as well. A guy like Hart, I remember tweeting the day he announced his retirement, and it wasn't to be snide about that. And in fact, I'm sure I was still trying to say congratulations to him and all that, innit? But I was trying to get across, note the date I'm sure I said that in the tweet. Note the date. Because I actually think Joe Hart's trying to help Celtic as well. I think if you listen to his interviews since, he talks so highly about the Celtic family. He's a bona fide fan. He wants the position to be solved. He will have known who was there before him. It was Barkas. He'll know all this. Like it's not even like he had to dig through the archives to find out. So I think he's given Celtic an opportunity in a window between his announcing his retirement and the end of this season to watch someone's goalkeeper traits. And that should have took more than one scout, and that should take a hell of a lot of footage and hours. We have money to get in the right goalkeeper. We'll be hesitant to spend big money on any position, right? But when you look at this one, whether it be a free transfer or not, pay the right wages if it's the right guy. If it's 2-3 years, I'm happy to do that, and then we go again. All right? I'm happy to do that and go again. No one's moaning about the contribution Joe Hart's made for 3 seasons. Joe Hart lasting 3 seasons is longer than Jota lasted at Celtic, who's 23. So let's get it out our head that everyone has to be 21, 22, all this pish to have an impact. Particularly in the goalkeeper position, I think experience can be, invaluable. I think we need more of it throughout the squad. I've said that a few times. But in terms of the goalkeeper role, I think you take a Joe Hart out of there. Yeah, they might not be able to come in and bring all the same qualities that Joe left Celtic with. He came in with a unique place, I think, with the 75 England caps and stuff. I don't think you'll get many of those.
No.
But I certainly think there should be food for thought now that it's someone that you get in that it's not the first rodeo. And it's someone who knows the way about. And then you base it on, not whether they might have played for us before or not played for us before. Whether they've said they've had Celtic posters on the wall in the 70s. Nobody cares about all that pish, really. And yeah, it works sometimes. When Postecoglou came in and said that at Kenny Dalglish post on the wall, and was like, oh, he's one of us. Don't fall for all that crap. Make all your decisions based on not whether they've played for us before, whether they like Celtic, whether they played in the Rangers top when they were young. Nobody cares, mate. Get the right guy in that's been scouted, ticks all the boxes the most, and then the other criteria, such as affordability and a willingness from said player to want to come in.
Phil, I think one of the most important things that Celtic have to, and especially Brendan Rodgers, has to make sure, and us as fans have to make sure, is whoever that goalkeeper is going to be, we have to put faith in that goalkeeper. The perfect example, obviously, is going back to Joe Hart, a player that was told that would never kick a ball, would never play in goals for Tottenham when he was there. He was down on his luck in every club he'd been at since he left Man City. Ange brings him in and basically says, you're going to be my number one. I'm going to put all that faith into you. And like Bhoycie has alluded to, in all the conversations and interviews that Joe Hart's had since he'd announced his retirement, is all he wanted to do was repay the faith that Celtic put in him. And that's where the performances were coming from, as well as the natural talent and as a very good goalkeeper. Another example you can look at is Craig Gordon, a guy who was riddled with injuries, didn't look like he'd ever play again. Yep. And Celtic gave him the opportunity, and we put a lot of faith in him, and he was the number one goalkeeper. And no matter what's happened since he's left, and some of the things that he said since he's left, he was a very good goalkeeper for us at the time.
He was.
So I think whoever we bring in, because I think that's one thing I will try to be as fair as I possibly can with Barkas, is you can look back at the situation of where he came in, and there was very little faith in him. He was the goalkeeper situation, kept swapping in and out. We didn't know who the number one goalkeeper was, and I think minutes and confidence play a massive part in the goalkeeping position. So, Phil, whoever it is, they have to have a bit of faith put into him and give him the opportunity, because it's big gloves to fill. Joe Hart leaving.
Mm-hmm. As one of as the position on the park that you just don't tinker with. Goalkeeper is a long time investment. Guy that's expected to play pretty much every game. I know you get some managers that do a thing where they'll play one keeper for league games and one for cup games, but even over the last 3 years with Joe Hart, that didn't even happen that often. We tried it with Secrets, if I remember correctly. That one didn't work out too well. But yeah, Joe Hart, he played all those games. So when it comes to the keeper, it has to be that he is the guy that is going to start all these games. Look at, you mentioned there about Barkas. Remember that little wild period? Well, there was a lot of wild periods in the COVID season, but where he rotated Conor Hazard, Scott Bain, and Barkas for about 2 months or whatever. And Neil Lennon was doing these really, very, very publicly bashing Barkas and stuff like that. And then he would publicly back Bain and then criticise him, and just a total mess. So it has to be something. Yeah, you're right. Whoever it is that comes in, it's like you're the number one. And yeah, you just keep him in because he's going to be expected to play so many games. Obviously, the defence in front of him as well is another position you don't want to tinker too much with. But yeah, the keeper is one that you don't rotate on the regular. So whoever comes in, they have to have the full endorsement from the manager that you are my guy. And yeah, as you say, well, whoever it's going to be, it has to be a big decision. It has to be the right man. And but I do have faith, like Regan said about Brendan Rodgers. I think he'll get it right. I think he knows the importance of this because the fixtures we're going to have next season, say with that Champions League, we cannot be going in with Scott Payne or somebody in goal. The game's
where do you think, David, like it ends though in terms of your hunt for a goalkeeper? What's the ceiling they put on a position like this? Because I discussed, I think it was Kelleher was talked about and stuff, and you're going, you're not. I think there was a lot in the live chat saying that's your goalie for 10 years. But we ain't keeping anyone for 10 years.
10 years, no.
We're not keeping any player for 10 years that comes in for a sustainable fee. So you need to get someone that if you are going to keep them for a few years, then you've got to be able to know then you're still going to make a profit on them, at the very least your money back. If there's a fee. That's how Celtic work. I'm not saying that's what I would do. See, even if the goalkeeper, for example, the point I was trying to make there was, see if you signed a goalie for £5 million, right, and you knew you'd get them tail end, they're chasing that dream again. They've maybe been the bench last few years, but you know they're bona fide quality, and you get them, say, for 4 years, an extra year enjoy it. Would you still be willing to pay £5 million transfer fee as well as all the wages for no return, other than what they bring to the team? I am. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. The
return
is winning the league that gets us a 70 million every year for the Champions League. That's the return. $5 million is nothing if you're bringing in 70 million for winning the Scottish League by getting into the Champions League, because we all know we get 5 million for winning our league, but you can get 55.5 million Tottenham got for coming fifth this season. That's the world that we're living in. But yeah, I would be willing to spend, if it was me, to spend that kind of money, knowing that we're getting a good goalkeeper that's going to help us seal the championship every year. A name that keeps popping up is Muric. I think he's a Burnley goalkeeper. Burnley. Now, Regan, you might know better than me. Has he been at Burnley since Joe Hart was there? Because I'm asking that because I think Joe Hart is the perfect ambassador for Celtic. Like, he's absolutely loved his time at the club. He can't talk highly enough about the club, and I don't think he's just bamming it up for us as fans to just lap up. I think he genuinely means it. I mean, Christ, he thinks Livingston away is one of the best away days he's ever played at. So could somebody like him, could Joe Hart go to a Muric at Burnley and say, listen, get out of Burnley. If they're not playing you, you're a good goalkeeper. If Celtic are interested, I would take it. Because I think Joe Hart's the perfect ambassador to get a goalkeeper of maybe that ilk. I say that ilk, I don't know anything about him, but a Premier League goalkeeper.
I think that's spot on, David, because I'm sure that as well as being a very good goalkeeper, David, I'm sure that Joe Hart, being up here, he can pass on that experience to anybody else now and say, look, I'm proof that if you go up there, you'll be loved by the fans, and it's absolutely brilliant. And I'm sure that's what Fraser Foster said that he told Joe Hart. So I'm sure Joe Hart can do that to many other players. And it's actually very good because I'm sure that, I know you'll probably get onto it, David, but I mean, a certain Champions League winner at Manchester United said during this morning that he wanted to join Celtic to be as part of his football journey. So if more people are telling players how good Celtic is, then that's certainly not a bad thing.
Absolutely, mate. Right, well, we've been on for 35 minutes and we've only gone through one topic, so let's move on to another one. And this is about a player that's potentially leaving the club, which is obviously a sad topic to discuss, Bhoycie. However, it's inevitable when you've got a player of this calibre we can only the best advice is just enjoy them while we've got them. And of course, I'm talking about our Danish midfielder, Matt O'Reilly. He's an outstanding season. One of the best midfield performances throughout a season we've had in a long, long time. 18 goals he scored this season and 13 assists. He's also provided 3 assists in the Champions League too. These things don't go unnoticed. Of course, we know a bid, not a rumour, a legitimate factual bid came in from an Atletico Madrid, a top European league, European club. Atletico Madrid coming in for him. That we batted away, thankfully. However, I don't think we're going to be managing to bat any more bids away. Whether they come back in, there's talks at Brighton, West Ham, and even Brentford, Newcastle, Aston Villa. These are all these clubs that are coming in, and apparently Celtic want to break the transfer record, sale record of 50 million for Matt O'Reilly. Now, the way the transfer, the fees and everything, and the wages, etc., the new rules coming into the Premier League, I can't see a Brighton and a West Ham throwing 50 million at Matt O'Reilly. So I don't know how far away we are with this 50 million evaluation. But I think we can concede the fact that we are probably going to see Matt O'Reilly leave this season. Bhoycie, where do you think he's going to end up, and where does Celtic go from there?
I've lost faith in what Celtic do from there, regardless of what the fee is. So that there's two different conversations, and I know that's shit saying that because it should absolutely be a fundamental question that you've just asked. But I've got to be realistic when I put it to Celtic, David, and I go, I can't tie the two in. Celtic making 50 million doesn't mean they come close to spending 50 million, albeit they have all the more fucking right to spend 50 million if they got in 50 million, as it would leave all the Champions League revenue, all the said 70 million in the bank already sitting there left alone, albeit a few wages might come out the accounts as the years go. People don't want to spend money, and it has conditioned fans now, and it's doing my fucking head in. I can't understand how tight, essentially, our own fans have been with their money they invest into a club, they see going nowhere, and yet they applaud it. They go, no, 5 million quid. That's a bit much, mate. Can I spend that? I'm glad the club aren't going to shell that out. Fuck are we all talking about? I watched a video today. I sent you a link for the channel before, Phil, Football Flashbacks.
I've watched
and
it.
It was going through John Barnes' first nightmare season.
I've watched that one, yes.
It was only the other day. It was brilliant, man. Brilliant. And honestly, you start looking at the fees, David, and that, you just go, shut up. Like, Celtic, I know this is a bad example, right? This is a bad example. But in terms of the logistics financially of what they knew wouldn't bankrupt them, because this is now post, obviously, 94, all that stuff, right? This is now, we've stopped the 10. We're in the next few years. We brought in John Barnes, but we wanted Kenny Dalglish. But he said it will only come with John Barnes. I want him to be the manager, me be his mentor. Mm-hmm. 2 wages for the price of one Celtic spent it. We sold Craig Billy for 3 million because they decided they want the centre half called Raphael Scheidt. Bad example. But the point was, they're balancing books, mate, with none of the commercial revenue they make now. Nothing close to the amount of season ticket money they make now. Nothing like the Champions League money they make now. Yet, Eyal Berkovic comes in the door for £5.75 million as well that same season. Stop worrying about, if you're a fan, what Celtic do with money they receive. They won't spend what they should, sadly. In terms of the valuation I put on him, David, he's as much as what anyone was willing to pay. But to not be clever about it, if you want my opinion, I would generally think if Jota was 25 million, I thought Jota could have went for more. So I would now demand the money I thought Jota was worth. I would say about 35. You should be looking.
I think that's a more realistic. I think the 50 million valuation is just to,
And there's no way Celtic will demand 50 million off anyone.
No,
because they blinked at the first offer for Jota.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
Exactly.
don't even think you'll get 35, David. I think you'll probably get 28.
25 and a half. And they'll say it's a club record.
And they'll pay it in 4 installments as well. Now, James Kennedy here, he's saying Matt O'Reilly may stay another season for European games. He won't get that with other teams. Now, here's where I get what you're saying, James, right? I totally get what you're saying. However, we can't have it both ways. We can't say, well, he's 35 million players, 35 million pound at least 35 million pound players. And then on the same foot say, but he's not going to get a game for Brighton Hove Albion. You know what I mean? He'll stick around to play European football because he won't. Sorry, I've misunderstood that. I've just realised what you're saying. If he goes to Aston Villa, you'll get European football.
Champions League, no less. Yeah.
Sorry, I misread. I thought what you were saying was he will
goes
get
to these teams.
I see the Villa's a realistic one. However, my point still stands. It's like we can't say, well, you want 35 million. He's still going to want to go anywhere because he might not get any game time. He wants to stick with us. Phil, how realistic is the valuation if he goes to Villa? He comes down as home.
That's huge. That's huge. When you consider the appeal for English Premier League clubs,
English
homegrown ones in them, that's huge.
Does that count now if he's a Danish international?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's McCarthy counts as homegrown, and he's plays for Ireland. So
Villa ticks all the boxes. European football, homegrown. I mean,
but that's a good banker for Celtic, isn't it?
They've got money to spend as well. Say that again.
Well, that increases our sort of
our valuation.
You know, I'm doing a Westlife move here. But like that gives you more haggling points, doesn't it?
Yeah. So then I asked the question again, Phil, with that bearing in mind, if a Villa is interested, and a Newcastle, who we know are cash rich, how far away is that 50 million valuation? If you put that factor involved there?
I don't think we would get 50 million. I do think over the Jota money is feasible though. And also the point on European football, I don't think that comes into play at all. I don't, because the English Premier League could say about being boring or whatever about it and lost its soul, but it's still a very, very, very high quality league. Even if he's not, goes to a club that hasn't got European football like Newcastle, who of course thought they'd got Conference League football and apparently been knocked out of it because Man U won the FA Cup. He'd still be playing up against guys like Kevin De Bruyne and stuff like that if he's playing week in, week out. You know, this type of midfielders he's going to be testing himself against. He obviously has aspirations as well. Obviously, the European Championships is just around the corner. He's been on the periphery of the Denmark squad and whatnot. But if he becomes an English Premier League player, he then becomes a staple in the Denmark squad every time. And when tournaments like this roll around, he's going to be playing and again be playing against the best players out there. So to me, I don't think the European football is a good fit. Well, I can see the point about if he stays with us, he gets playing 8 Champions League games as it stands. But I don't think that's a selling factor really. For us, and he's obviously had his experience playing the Champions League for the last couple of seasons with us, and obviously mixed results there to say the least. But no, I think the money will talk, and feeling in a much higher standard of football week in, week out, because to develop himself as a player, that's going to be a huge draw for him to go down there and test himself. And you're right about the point as well regarding homegrown. That is a huge factor. He has a lot of appeal from their side, from the English club's side. He ticks a lot of boxes and has a lot of appeal. So Russell is right in what he's saying as well. We probably could ask for a bit more, but I'm confident that if it comes, which I'm expecting it will, we will get more than the Jota money. Definitely get more than that. But I couldn't say 50 million, but what was Regan say, 28.5 million?
Going once, going twice.
29 million. There you go. I'll come in with that. But I'll be more Jota anyway.
Okay, well, we'll move on from outgoings and back into incomings now. There's reports claiming that the Hoops Chiefs are willing to back Brendan and get Adam Ida back in the door, because it's looking like he put up a post today or yesterday saying his goodbyes and well wishes to Celtic and the fans, and thank you and thanks for coming and all that kind of stuff. However, I think Brendan's made it pretty clear how he feels about Adam Ida or Adam Ida, however you want to pronounce his name, and they're wanting to get him back in the door. Now, apparently Norwich are looking at a fee in the region of around 6 million for Adam Ida. Now, we're just talking about selling a player for 35 million plus. This shouldn't even be a topic of discussion. If that's the fee, after the impact that he's made since coming in January, I think it's a no-brainer. However, because of the impact he's made, Bhoycie, the new incoming head coach at Norwich may want to have a look at him himself before any decisions are made, which then leaves us with a long summer drawn-out transfer saga that we know is inevitable. We know it's coming. We're going to be spending all summer wondering if Adam Ida is going to come back. And we also know, because we had this conversation a couple of years ago, the argument of, well, Celtic in a stronger position than they were last season because Adam Ida was already in the door last year. Yada, yada, yada. We had that whole conversation about Cameron Carter-Vickers and Jota 2 seasons ago. Adam Ida, Bhoycie, get him back in at 6 million?
I think it's important to know that, are you off, Regan?
Oh, Regan, as we hit the 45-minute mark. Yeah, we've ran
Listen,
it
good to see you, son.
See you later, lads. See you
Thanks,
later.
Regan. Thanks for
See you,
joining us,
Regan.
mate.
See you
Thank
later,
you.
guys. Take
See you soon,
care.
mate. Bye-bye.
Hi, Regan.
See you, Regan.
I just think when it comes to the Ida one, what we've learned from this was very much a Rodgers forced through signing to get him on loan. And the reason I say that is because, see, the other examples you gave, they were Celtic moves because they got this option to buy thing. It's to try before you buy. That's it, Celtic's tentative approach to transfers. It's all written there. It's blatantly obvious. It has all the hallmarks, fingerprints of Celtic traits. This one doesn't, because had it been the option to buy, it would have been a stitch on that Celtic would be paying the £5 million fee or the £6 million fee, whatever it is, ASAP, and hopefully that will still happen. Would I take him? Yep, I take him as one of 2 strikers to come in. And if anyone is scared of Kyogo being the 3rd choice striker next year, then they're not wanting the best for the team. Now, that's not to say the season ends with Kyogo 3rd choice striker. That's not to say the podium places of the strikers rotate as the season goes on, as form dictates and competition dictates. That's what I'm looking for Celtic. I've watched us do the 2 striker thing the last 3 years. In fact, 1.5 really. The first half of this season is what Rodgers had. I don't trust in that at all. And you could argue the second half of Ange's season, although it seemed very much his decision to let Giakoumakis go, knowing that O was coming in. Nice one, mate. When I look at it, really, I go, you want 3 in. And you want 3, competing. And I also think it's very, very binary that basically if you get to, you're telling the world we can only play 1 up. That's all we're going to do this year. We're going to be 1 up. I just think it's so shit to think how obvious all that crap is, and who's going to, grab the balls again and play football with 2 strikers or mix it up when needed. I've got to be honest with you. I think when Ida comes in, pay the money. If it is 5-6 million, I think it's worth it. I don't want anyone shitting themselves over it. I think it's decent money. Do you think it improves our first team, though? Well, I'm not sure, because I think he improved competition at the first team. I don't think he necessarily improved the first team based on Kyogo probably still having more starts than he did between January and now. So, therefore, I would say yes, Ida, for the variation he can bring to our team play, for the different style that he brings. I really did turn my head at Rugby Park. I thought, fuck, he's got way more ability than I think we'd seen, to be fair. And so rather than it just all being about us giving him credit for, I think we can all, even those who did think he was maybe, or held him in a higher regard than we did, can at least concede he showed more ability in that match than he had done since he joined, albeit still dictating outcomes. That is what he's done since he's came in. But I've got to be honest. Right, go on.
No, continue, please.
I was just going to say, but for me, a caveat it all with, I want us to finish the season, start a new season, a stronger first team than what we finished the last one. I'm not sure either joining means that's happened. Therefore, I want another one as well. I want that real competition to go up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it strengthens the squad, and like you said, in terms of competition, we saw what it did for Kyogo bringing in Adamida, I think it gave Kyogo a bit of a wake-up call that, look, O might not be doing it, but Ida certainly will. Phil, you might be able to answer this question because I was just, Bhoycie was talking, I was trying to find the answer for myself. Odsonne Edouard, when he came out on loan from PSG, first of all, was he a January loan signing or was he in for the full season?
Start of the season.
Right, so he played 22 games and scored 9 goals in that season. That's what I managed to find out. Right, I couldn't remember if he'd come in. Of course, he didn't come in January if he'd played 22 times. Anyway, 9 goals. We spent 9 million on to get him in. Now, you could argue that Adamida has had a more impactful 6 months than Odsonne Edouard had on loan in his first season at Celtic, and we spent 9 million.
Great point.
On him.
Love that shit.
So, on that alone, 6 million's a steal. Because he's far more impactful 6 months than Odsonne Edouard ever had at Celtic in his loan spell. The third choice goal striker, bear in mind that.
And just to top that up as well, I mean, and I think that's a brilliant example because I ideally remember the reason that the big Rodgers Dembele fallout, Phil, was Rodgers didn't want him to go. Rodgers wanted, guess what?
To play the two of them
3
together.
for the price of 1 or 2 together, but he wanted 3. He wanted, and all this narrative that he didn't like Griffiths and all that's crap. He rated Griffiths. He just wanted to be fitter, but he definitely rated him as a player. He would have been very much. He was still second choice that second season that Edouard was there. Edouard was signed to supplement what we had, and I would keep Ida, and then you get someone else in as well. You'd be ambitious, man.
Well, that's the thing. Edouard started that season. Obviously, he came in on loan, but he started as the third choice. But by the end of the season, was the first choice because of injuries and just general form. I remember the 5-0 game that we wrapped up the league that season, the game where we could have scored 9 against them that day if we wanted. There was a lot of it was Edouard was going to have to lead the line that day because Griffiths was injured and Dembele was injured, and there was a few questions over. I know he'd scored the winner at Ibrox, but it was like, the titles the titles basically could be decided today. Can he pull off? He was unbelievable that day, and I think that was the day that many fans really did sit up and go, this guy, man, Edouard, because he started the season third choice. He got a hat-trick against Motherwell midway through the season, and that was up to that point, he hadn't really done much. So it just shows you what Russell was saying there about don't worry that, this guy might be third choice and don't worry about his feelings and all that. Players like competition, brings the best out in them, and as Odsonne Edouard showed, took his opportunity when it came. I think players like competition, yes.
Because I've been finding lately that a lot of our players don't seem to like the competition. Yakimakis comes as an example. He didn't want to stick around and fight for that number 1 position. Now, mate, you can argue you didn't get a fair. People will argue you didn't get a fair crack of the whip, but I just feel like he was quite happy just to move on because I'm never going to be number 1. Ivan Toney famously come out and said that. Well, I thought about Celtic, but I wanted to be the number 1 striker, and they had Odsonne Edouard there. He didn't bet on himself to be better than Odsonne Edouard to come to Celtic. That's my worry. That's my worry, is that the modern player just wants to be if I'm coming to Celtic, I want to be the number 1 striker. So you won't need these other 2. And then is
that fan driven or is that player driven?
I think it's a bit of both, because I think you have an attachment to Kyogo or whoever is your main talisman from the season before. You can't drop Kyogo. You can't drop him. Like, he's the man. He's been scoring goals. But then at the same point, I was a guy of the caliber of Ivan Toney didn't want to come to Celtic because he didn't want to bet that he couldn't be the number 1 at Celtic. They had Odsonne Edouard there and they couldn't guarantee me being the number 1. Well, Odsonne Edouard at the time had been banging in the goals for 3 seasons in a row. You wouldn't just walk in and be the number 1. You've got to earn the top. This is Celtic Football Club that we're talking about. You don't just get given the jersey, you have to earn it.
Well, Dave, do you want to know who I think's got that personality? Adamida. Because if you listen to him in interviews, he's been talking about he's always backed himself and always fancied that he could do it. You listen to some of the stuff he said recently. We got asked obviously at the end of the cup final there, just about how it felt in the last 6 months and whatnot. And he did say things like, I always believed in myself and whatnot. So I think he does back himself, and if he did sign permanently, which I am hoping does happen, I think he'll fancy that he can dislodge Kyogo. And yeah, I definitely think it should be a third option as well, because again, when you're in an environment where you've got 9 substitutes week in, week out, and you can use 5 of them in a game, I think it makes sense to have 2 strikers on the bench, because when injuries and suspensions set in, you might only have 1 extra striker available, and you might get suspended or whatever, or injured. So you also want to cover your bases there. But yeah, in terms of Ido, I do think we need to, as I said a couple of weeks ago, I would treat him as a high priority signing, and I still think he would. I take on Russell's point, though, does he improve the first team necessarily? No, but he does improve the squad, and he's showing what he can, what he can deliver, the impact he's made in the 6 months. I said it on Twitter the other day, the boy himself must look at what's happened in the last 6 months. Boy that grew up a Celtic fan, what he's achieved, what he's done, the way the fans have taken to him after a very rocky start. He'll be acutely aware of coming in, and the way the fans obviously receptive to his signing. He'll be aware of all that, and he certainly went a long way to prove many wrong. And what he did on Saturday has made him immortal. And I just think, like, surely he must in his head be sitting, thinking, can't walk away from this. Sit down with you. Now, obviously, he's put out that post on Instagram as a professional footballer and contracted to another club. He's not going to come out and say, I'll be back next season. He's just basically dotting the I's across the T's. So just playing it by the book. He'll sit down with his agent, with Norwich, and Brendan Rodgers will definitely be in contact with him. Whether that happens or not, we don't know. One thing that could be a hindrance if we're going to make this happen is Norwich have got a new manager coming in. If the new manager comes in and looks at what Adam Ida's done for the last 6 months, sits him down and talks about his plans and sells him the dream, Adam Ida might be like, yeah, I fancy that this time. But again, looking at if he's a Celtic fan, as he says he is, grew up Celtic fan, to have achieved what he did and get that moment, I say, when I was in the stadium on Saturday, that was like an out-of-body experience when he scored that goal. That was proper, like, absolute euphoria, proper limbs. And I'm like, as a fan, scoring that goal and having that moment, so you must want more of this next season. So I'm hoping that it comes to fruition in the summer, because he's shown what he can do and he'll be a great option for us next season if he's here.
Brilliant. Yep. I couldn't agree more, mate. Right. Well, we've hit an hour. I think we'll keep this show to an hour. I've enjoyed our chat. We will be doing this more often. There'll be plenty of things to discuss in the silly season, as we've been calling it. So I can only thank Regan for joining us. Of course, Phil, as always, mate. It's always a pleasure. And the new look Bhoycie joining us this week. So hopefully we'll see you again soon, mate. So thank you, everyone, for watching.
Brilliant work, David, son. Enjoyed it, mate. I look forward to the next Tuesday that you're doing it, mate. I'll be watching intently, mate. Intently. It's been brilliant work, mate.
Cool. Thanks very much, guys, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Catch you later, guys.